Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Mo Show Live. I'm Morris Lilienthal. All right, folks, we're in for a real treat today. This is going to be the first superhero that I've actually interviewed ever. And but in all seriousness, our guest today is a real superhero. He comes to the aid of those in need. Yuri Williams is the founder of A Future Superhero in France, a nonprofit that has been seen on the Steve Harvey Show, on Access Hollywood, and a number of media outlets for all the great work that Yuri and his organization is out there doing. So I'm honored to have Yuri on the show today to talk a little bit about his passion for giving back, where that came from, and to specifically let's talk a little bit about his organization and what they're doing in the communities around where he lives and really around the country. And as you'll learn, that Yuri has been out to all 50 states in the past, has another big trip coming up here at the end of the year to do that again, to raise awareness and to help those in need around the states and the country. And so, Yuri, you and I have connected through mutual friends over the years, but have not had an opportunity to do something like this. So I'm honored to have you on. How are you doing?
Great, man. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, it's just my pleasure, and I'm excited to talk to you today and to talk to you about your organization and doing, and talk a little bit about SpiderMan and you getting out there and really surprising and bringing some joy and smiles to some kids' lives that maybe are having a tough time. And we're going to talk a little bit about that in a minute. But folks, if you're just tuning in, our guest is Yuri Williams from A Future Superhero and Friends. And if you've got questions or comments during the live show today, let us know. Put it in below the feed. If you're on Twitter or you're on Facebook watching, we'll get to them. If you want to give a shout out and say hello to Yuri, then please do that. If you are watching the show like most people do, and that is through the recording, or if you're listening to the podcast, we'll leave information on how to get up with Yuri and how to follow him or get more information about his organization throughout the show. But if you want to jump into these comments, even after the fact, Yuri and I will be monitoring the comments afterwards and try to get you any more information about the show, about how we can get you some more details on what his organization is doing and how you maybe can support it and get the word out a little bit more. So, Yuri, I guess for people that have not had the pleasure of following you on social and hearing your story a little bit, and I know a little bit of it from following you on social and seeing some other interviews, can you kind of tell our viewers a little bit about how it came about, that why you decided to start this organization, and what was your passion behind doing that, and why we got to where we are today?
Yeah, I really started giving ever since my mom taught me how to give, and I was at a young age. And eventually I would go on to follow her to work. And sometimes she was a probation officer, and she worked at a juvenile hall at the time. So some of these weekends when she didn't have anybody to watch me, she would drag me along to inside the juvenile hall. And you can't do that nowadays, but
Right,
that's
right.
where that's where the parents would come and drop off toys when they visit their kids. And they would tell them that we can't give these to your children or whatever. It's gonna get donated afterwards. So I would end up getting all these GI Joes and all these toys, and I fell in love with toys. And I just fell in love with watching her interact with the kids. Even though these children have done wrong, she gave them a fair chance while they're there, and tried to rehab them to be better citizens once they hit the streets. And she stayed on them countlessly. When she turned probation officer, we'd be driving down the street, she'll hop out and see one of her clients and get on them and stay on them. And they, from viewing that at a young age, and I could see that they appreciated that. That's why I ended up following her in her footsteps.
Yeah, so she was out, doing her job, but doing it with love and
Right.
caring for the people that she was working with and caring about them. And people, a lot of people need that, and not everybody has a loving family that takes care of them or has the friends and do, and sometimes they feel left out. And if somebody will reach out to them, and I know you've probably experienced that through your organization, is that when you'll be that loving hand or that listening ear or the one to give them a minute, then they really appreciate that, and that can kind of not only turn their day around, but can really turn more of that around. And it sounds like you learned that from your mom.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, at an early age, I followed everything she's done, and she stayed on me to make me the person I am today, and I'm thankful for that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So as time went on, and do kind of, I know the story kind of unfolds, and then your mom falls ill, as I understand, and gets cancer, and that's such a dreaded disease that many of us, in some way or shape, impacts our lives, whether us personally or our family or immediate friends or something. And when that happens to mom, that kind of leaves a mark on you after she passes, I understand. Tell us a little bit about what that losing mom pushed you to kind of start this organization, as I understand it.
Yeah, she had an 8-year battle of cancer, and one day she decided to call me on that last year at work, and just gave me the news, and it just ripped me apart that she was hiding it from me for that long, and she finally
Oh,
decided
wow.
to tell me, and it just broke my heart because I didn't know how much time she had left, and just seeing her on her deathbed, and what she asked me to do was just to take care of my daughter, continue being kind to people and look after people, and I'm just keeping her name alive by starting this nonprofit in her name, to just to tell her thank you for what she taught me, and that's to love everybody that I interact with.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's such a cool story to think that you're taking something that was a difficult time for you, losing mom, but honoring her, and what you talked about a little earlier about learning the traits of giving back and looking out for others, and giving a helping hand and being compassionate about those in our communities that may need some help and that may not have the advantages that others have, and that you take those traits and then honor your mom by starting this organization. And that's a truly great thing. And I know she's smiling down, and every time you step foot in that costume or your organization does something, she's just beaming with pride.
Yeah.
Yuri, so talk a little bit about, so the organization is a superhero and friends, and I know it's a nonprofit. Talk to us a little bit about what the mission of the organization is, and what some of the things that you and the organization are out doing in general. What y'all's core values are.
The mission is to basically to uplift anyone in need. That could be veterans, seniors, ill children, just anybody that's in need of uplifting. We have backpack drives where we fill the backpacks full of supplies, and we have one for special needs children and children that don't have disabilities. And we have toy drives, blood drives, food drives. I mean, you name it. Any way I can help, and different areas, categories, I'm there to help, and that's basically what our mission is about: is helping and uplifting those in need.
Yeah. Well, and the kind of the tough thing to say is there's a lot of need out there.
Right.
And there are some great organizations that are narrowed and tailored into one little specific niche here and there, and those organizations do a great service for those that they serve. But sometimes there are others that just get left out, or if you reach out to a particular organization with a certain issue and it doesn't quite fall into the right peg, they might can't help you. So having the flexibility of your organization to say, hey, there's a need here, and maybe we haven't done quite this thing before, but let's find a way to help this person or this segment of the people out to do. I think that's awesome, because being encompassing and not just pigeonholing yourself into one area, it allows you a little bit more fluidity to help and do. And so that's great. I know, a couple of the causes that I know from following you and doing some research here. One is providing food for those in need, and talk to us a little bit about that, and what your organization has done. And I think there's, people don't realize sometimes that there's a need in their communities right underneath their back door, right under their nose, and they don't realize that. Talk to us a little bit about that from what you've experienced.
Yeah. The first person that I saw homeless was my neighbor, and that was in the '80s, after his wife kicked him out of the house. And I saw him at the grocery store. I'll never forget. My mom gave him $20, and I asked her, why did she do that? And that has stuck with me till this day. And she told me she did that because you don't know what's going to happen to him tonight. You don't know if he's going to be able to get something to eat, where he's going to stay. But we tried to help him as the best way possible, and that's what I try to do. I never judge these people that I see on the streets, because I've heard their stories. I've run into doctors, lawyers, teachers, you name it. There's a houseless person out right now that works at a Walgreens, and she's sleeping out of her car, and she didn't have to tell me this, and she didn't. You think you look at somebody and you can assume that this person is houseless or homeless or whatever, and she fooled me big time, and
Yeah.
ever since that day, I've never made an assumption or judged anybody, because of their situation.
Yeah. Well, and I think, I was sharing with you before we went live, and a lot of my audience knows that watches the show regularly, that my wife's a teacher. And one of the things that her system and many school systems do is they have these backpack programs. And a lot of times there's nonprofits like your nonprofit in that local school system in that area that will step up and provide meals or food for the weekend for these children. And there's one a nonprofit in my area that works at my wife's school. And I vividly remember in the last couple of years that there was a student who was signed up for that program, and they're very discreet, so the child doesn't, have to be ashamed of the fact that they're getting these resources and to do about it. But the child came up to my wife. If I'm not mistaken, there was a day they were going to be out of school on a Friday. So the last day of school that week was going to be a Thursday. And the child came up to my wife and was like, Miss Lilienthal, I'm not going to be here tomorrow. School's going to be out tomorrow. We're off Friday. If I don't get my backpack, my school snack bag for the weekend, I'm not going to have anything to eat.
Wow.
And this is a pretty affluent school system, and people would probably not imagine that in an affluent area where we have more engineers per capita than any city in the country, that there are children going to school who go home that the only square meal they get is at lunch at school or breakfast. And if they don't have those resources, and I think people just assume, and I do, unless I was exposed to it, like you've been exposed to it working with the homeless community. So I would just encourage people to be a little more sensitive and receptive to that, and to get engaged with organizations like your organization, to learn more and to see how they can help those in their community. Anything else you want to add to that, Yuri?
No, you said it. You said it all. That's basically it.
Well, I know something else that you're passionate about, and that kind of ties into the name of your organization. Talk to us a little bit about SpiderMan and how you put that costume on, and what inspired you to want to go visit kids in the hospitals and at home that are sick and maybe need a little cheering up. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, growing up, Mr. Rogers, Spider-Man, and Sesame Street were shows and cartoons that I regularly watched.
Yeah.
And I used to always love Spider-Man. He would throw the costume out and go save somebody, and nobody knew who he was. And that's how I feel. Like I want to do these good deeds and people not know who I am. I wish I would have never, shown my face to the world so they won't know who I am. It's not about me at all when I'm doing these acts. It's just that I want people to see, and hopefully it'll inspire you to get out there and do the same. And wearing these different costumes. My mom always told me to do something different, and I've never saw anyone go out there with in a Spider-Man costume or Kylo Ren or Star Wars and go service the houseless community or visit. I've seen them do ill children, but I never saw them do, the houseless community. So I said, let's jump out there and, do something different. And I just love it.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious, because I don't know the answer to this question. I'm sure you've been asked it, but were you a big superheroes fan growing up? Was that one of your things? Kind of, as a kid, you were just talking about watching Mr. Rogers and Sesame Street, but watching superheroes and stuff. And was Spider-Man always your favorite?
Yeah, Spider-Man was always my favorite. I played with G.I. Joes. I still love Legos. Don't tell anybody I still play with Legos if you pull them out. But I'm just like a big kid at heart. I wish if I ever win a lottery, I'm gonna buy Toys R Us again and bring Toys R Us back. That store brought so many, good memories from me. From, when I went to school and did make good grades, I'll never forget going to get that video game ticket, and then you go take it to the counter, and just the smile that the person was giving you by giving you that cartridge, the smile I get back. It was just a great interaction. Toys R Us. I love that place.
Yeah, well, here's a mutual friend of ours joining us. Look at that guy right there.
Okay.
Rodney, we appreciate you joining and tuning in today. Well, it is, and we, many of us we're fortunate enough to have that feeling a lot of times that you know, we got those things to do or could be cheered up. But as we were talking about, a lot of times there are a lot of people, children and adults, that are having a tough go of it. And to have some little uplifting moment to kind of take their mind off of it and smile really means a lot. And I think you've recognized that and done. Talk to us a little bit about, you know, what are the kids' reactions when you go in to see the kids, specifically when you go visit these kids that are having a tough day or not feeling well? Kind of talk to me a little bit, tell our audience a little bit about, you know, do they know you're coming at all, or do you just get contacted and kind of surprise them generally? How does that kind of work, Yuri?
You know, I take to social media and I'll use hashtags like cancer, special needs, and you know, the parents are using these different hashtags. So what I do is reach out to them and, you know, ask if it's all right if I could stop by and, you know, uplift your child for that day or whatever. I ask them to visit the website just so they know it's no funny business or scams going on.
Right.
The reaction that I get from these children is just, it's just priceless or speechless. I don't even know how to explain it, but you know, the reaction that I get from the parents is even 10 times is happiness. You know, the smile that the parents have compared to the children sometimes outweighs the child, you know, because it brings back memories of them, you know, when they were a child. And this 10 to 15 minutes while I'm interacting with these children is just like a special time for them to, you know, hopefully not be in pain and just enjoy the moment. And that's basically what I'm doing, is to help uplift them for that day, to keep them going.
Yeah. Well, and as a parent too, you know, a lot of the children that you're going to see are having some problems in their life, and do. And so, you know, as a parent, for me, if my son's not doing well or doing, a lot of times, especially if a child's ill, a lot of things that are out of your control, and to see your kid go and smile makes you smile too. And so I know when you visit these children, specifically talking about the kids right now, as SpiderMan or some other superhero, you're uplifting the whole family, because when the kid smiles, the parents and whoever in the family and the guardians, whoever else is with them, and probably the medical workers and everybody else gets a real kick out of it and does. And so that's really awesome. Folks, if you're just joining us, welcome to the Mo Show Live. Our guest today is Yuri Williams, who is the founder of A Future Superhero and Friends. We've been talking a little bit about his inspiration and passion that he learned from his mom on giving back as a young man and learning that and seeing his mom do it. And that's why I always tell parents, you know, it's great to tell, but you need to show. And kids learn so much from seeing that and doing. And that's one of the reasons I've been so passionate over the years about supporting our friend Rodney that we just saw was joining us, and getting whiting out to mow with Rodney, just because I can talk about it, but unless I'm out there living it and doing it, you don't understand it and do. And so I encourage parents to do these things and to teach those lessons that Yuri learned as a young man. So Yuri, let's talk a little bit more. You touched on a little bit, but kind of give us some ideas of some of the projects that your organization has been involved in, and maybe some upcoming projects that you've got coming up in the next 6 months to a year that you want to kind of talk a little bit about.
Yeah, right now we're doing a summer mentoring / art healing workshop program where we've asked the community if they, you know, wanted to bring your child out to join the program. So what happened is, we have 16 youth currently that are in our mentoring art program. This will be going on our 4th week for 6 weeks. And these children are learning, you know, different skills. And one of the directors, Juan Carlos, is teaching these children how to use their art and possibly get a job as becoming a graphic artist, you know. And
Oh, wow.
we were trying to make an impact of teaching these children how to be artists, and also use art to, you know, make money. Like you can make t-shirts and sell during the summer and whatnot.
Sure.
But this program is built to, you know, encourage children to use their art, and hopefully one day they can possibly become graphic artists. You know, we want to use different outlets or different programs that we offer, such as you know, we service the veterans, the houseless veterans outreach as well. And we want to teach the children, you know, to come out and support these veterans that are houseless, that serve for, you know, our country.
Absolutely. Now, how old are these children that you're working with, Yuri, in this art program?
The art program is from 14 to 24.
Okay. That's great, teaching life skills and things, and I think so many of us, I'm a professional, but I think I went through a lot of schooling, but that's not always the best way to go. And there are a lot of kids out there that can be very productive and very happy and very satisfied with their life and make a good living by doing other things that don't necessarily involve a full-time school. Maybe there's a trade school, or maybe there's some specialty program or learning a trait like that you're helping to teach and foster. And I think that's something to keep in mind and do. And that college is not necessarily cut out for everyone. And if you're not doing that, there's no reason to go and waste your time on that if that's not something you think is gonna benefit you. So I know you've done toy drives, and I know one of the things that you and Rodney have done in the past is y'all have gone around to all 50 states for a homeless tour to kind of raise awareness to the homelessness issue in our society and our communities around the country. And while you do that, I know you dressed up. You're talking about dressing up. You're often dressed up as Spider-Man, and I think Rodney may have been dressed up as Santa Claus during that tour some. And tell our viewers a little bit about that tour and what you went into, maybe thinking it was going to be, and maybe what you learned and picked up that maybe you didn't realize you were going to pick up during that.
That I'm gonna be honest with you. That tour got me out of depression. I was in a 5-year depression period after losing my mom. And I saw Rodney, him and Officer Norman. I followed Norman first, and then I saw Rodney, and he came to California, and I told him I wanted to meet up with lunch, to talk to him about, the stuff that I was dealing with. And, we sat down and talked, and he was like, yeah, just let me know if you want to go. So that was the worst thing you could do, is ask me to to remind him. I was on him like every other day, like, man, when is the tour going to happen? And it finally happened, and that was probably the best thing that has ever happened to me, besides seeing my daughter born, and just meeting these different people, and to go to every state and to just see all these different people, ethnicities, just ages and different, backgrounds and this such a stuff. It just brought to a light to me that everybody is just living day by day to try to survive, and people don't to have time to even think about that. These people that we stopped in, was it Vegas? This lady, I'll never forget, her name was Colleen. She was walking from California to get to, I believe, Pittsburgh. And I was just like, man, she'll never make it. It was cold at night, and me and Rodney looked at each other. We drove by her, and I'm like, man, we can't leave her out here like this. So we turned around. We sat there, waited for Highway Patrol to come, and I told him, I need you to do me a favor and just take her to the next city because she could die out here. And the gentleman took her. And, just these different individuals that we were running into, like a veteran, houseless veteran that we were able to, Rodney posted his picture on Facebook, and his sister happened to see it. And she was able to get him off of the streets, and little things like that, just
Wow.
posting a video of somebody, and we were able to help this gentleman to get off the street. It's just priceless, and the feeling that you get from that, knowing that you did good for somebody. Now he's back with his family with no problems, living a great life again, and I just love that we are able to meet these different people and help them, and just for that day, or eventually it'll get them help
Maybe even more.
off the streets.
Yeah. Well, and I think what I gathered following that tour. One of the things that I gathered just as a viewer, Yuri, was a lot of the people you were meeting. These people at some point were not in that situation. There was some dramatic change in their life that whether it was a death in the family, a loss of a job, or a divorce, or something that caused just a dramatic shift where they were all of a sudden either without a job, and then ultimately without an income and without a home, and then poof, next thing they knew, they were on the streets.
Right.
And the other thing, meaning that can happen to any of us at some point. And the other thing that struck me that serves my memory serves me well, is that often you guys would ask what they wanted if they had like a Christmas wish list.
Right.
They weren't asking for cars or $10,000. They were asking for toiletries, jeans or shoes or socks, sometimes a cell phone or something like that to call their relatives and do. And they didn't know you guys were going to go get stuff or do. Maybe they thought maybe they might get something, or if they were sharing it on social, maybe somebody would reach out. And the appreciation in their and just in their reflection and their responses was just inspiring as a viewer. I can't imagine as someone out there doing it.
Right. That's the best feeling in the world, man. Just making somebody's day.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, you've got another one coming up. Tell us a little bit about the next tour that you guys are going to be doing.
Yeah, we're probably gonna hit that one after Thanksgiving. It'll be a similar tour. We're gonna service the houseless community, visit a ill child, and probably do something kind for somebody. And whatever else comes along that we could think of, just to make somebody's day during the holidays. We weren't able to do it last year, so we want to try to do it 2 times as big, just to honor those who were lost during COVID.
Yeah. Well, and I think I would bet, I know last time y'all did this 2 years ago, kind of had sleeping bags and some other things that y'all had kind of put together a little bitty package for each of the people in the homeless community y'all would meet. And folks, if you're not aware, I mean, they literally drove to all 48 states and would just, kind of had an idea of what city they were going to. But as I understand it, Yuri, when y'all would pop into a city, you didn't have a homeless. There wasn't somebody there with somebody had tagged somebody as the person y'all were going to meet with. Y'all just kind of did it on the fly, right?
Right. Yeah. We drive around, and first person or two that we saw, and those were the guys that were going to get blessed.
That's awesome. Well, before we wrap up, I want to be mindful of and respectful of your time as we're getting close to the 30-minute mark. I do want to kind of ask about another new project that you have going here, and that is a podcast. So, folks, if you're not aware, Yuri has started a podcast, and I think Rodney's chipping in when he can. But can you kind of tell us a little bit about the name of your podcast and about the inspiration and what you're doing in that new podcast?
Yeah, I have a friend of mine who works for a company called All Things Good. His name is Tom, and we branched out, me and Rodney, and created our own podcast. It's called ATG TGIF, which is All Things Good and Thank Good is Friday, where we interview people around the world that are doing good things every Friday. And the purpose of this podcast is to highlight other people that are doing, similar good things, around their area and community, such as us, and these people need to get highlighted so the people around the community can, support these people because they're trying to do good things.
Yeah, I agree. And if you haven't checked it out, it's on all the main podcast channels. I've got an iPhone, and I just found it on the podcast app that comes on preloaded on my iPhone. I think I listened to it maybe on Spotify too, Yuri, if I'm not mistaken. So check it out. Officer Norman, if you don't know Tommy Norman, he was your first episode, and he's a true inspiration. And just if you're feeling down and you want to feel good about life and humanity, find Officer Norman on social media and then listen to that podcast, and you'll come away with a better feeling about the world. And sometimes we need that. But I think it's great that you're using your platform and to try to highlight other people, because there are a lot of people out there that have good intentions and that are trying to do great things, and they just need a little help to get that snowball rolling. And if you can get right, you don't have to get in front of 10,000 people. If you can get in front of a few hundred or whatever, and maybe the right person who identifies with that issue or calls, hears that podcast or sees that tweet or that social share or Instagram post, then that could really help that person. So I tell folks to get out there and listen to that. And then if you're doing it and you like what you're hearing in Yuri's podcast, then please go out there and give it a 5-star review and share it out and do. So Yuri, as we wrap up, talk to us a little bit about how people can support your organization. How are you guys funded? Is there anything that our viewers, if they're drawn to this, can help you with anything with funding, either monetarily or Amazon wish list or anything like that? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so you can visit our website, www.futuresuperhero.com or .org. You can follow me on Instagram at a Future Superhero. Facebook is Yuri Williams. And, our donations are, nonprofit, so we need as much help as possible. If you can't help monetarily, you can always go to our Amazon wish list, or you can also come out and volunteer. Everything doesn't have to be money-wise. We do need volunteers to come out and uplift people.
Well, yes, if you've got the resources, then yes, please help Yuri and support his organization, because you know you can't go out and do the things that you're doing in the community with the homeless community and with the arts program you talked about, the backpack program, and so on and so on and so on, unless you have the money to do that. And so please do that. But at the barest of minimums, folks, if you can't do that, and a lot of us can't in these trying times, just follow them on social and share it out.
Yeah.
And give some comments and feedback, and maybe connect Yuri or connect people who have a connection to the project that Yuri is supporting at that time. Connect them to that project, and that's helping it more than you may think it is. And just sharing it out and helping get the word out, because the more people that learn about the program, then you may hit on somebody else that can support you financially and do, and just getting the word out to do. Yuri, we'll put a link in the Facebook comments here onto all your social handles there. But folks, if you'll just go, if you want to learn more, you can go to futuresuperhero.com. Yuri's got all his social media stuff there on his website. I checked that out earlier. Yuri, it is great to finally connect with you. If you get down here to Huntsville, Alabama, or close by, you better stop by and see me. Okay. And Rodney, if you're watching, you better bring Yuri by. So Yuri, it's good to connect with you, my friend. I look forward to following your journey and supporting you along the way, and look forward to the upcoming tour that you've got.
All right. Thank you. Thank you again for having me, Morris.
Absolutely. Thanks, everybody. Take care.